Hi, everyone. This is Joshua Hoffman, and welcome to another episode of the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast, where we deconstruct the why and how agency owners found their success and discuss a few things they learned along the way. Today, I have Tommaso Vaccarella, the co-founder and general manager of Connected Stories, which is the first and only multimodal creative management platform built for video advertising. Welcome, Tommaso.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for having me.
I'm coming in hot from, I think you said Rome, Italy, correct?
Correct in Rome, although I spend my time between New York and Italy overall.
Well, I guess I'll start there. How did you end up in the States?
It's been 12 years now. I moved there after high school, went to Pace University for my undergraduate, majoring in entrepreneurship management, and loved it, man. It was my dream to go to New York City after high school, and I've been spending 12 years now between Italy and New York, I should say.
Wait, so was that the reason that you ended up wanting to go to New York? Is you just really wanted to go, and then you applied to a few colleges and ended up at a Pace?
Exactly, yeah. I'd known the city since a few family trips during middle school and high school then. As soon as I got to the city, I just fell in love with it and said, yeah, I gotta move there at some point. So as soon as I had my first opportunity, which was after high school, actually, I said, okay, let me find something that suits me in the city, and again, let's move there.
Interesting. I want to take a step back then and start with something a little bit more unique, which is your production company that you have, which Wrong Way Pictures. What's the story behind that? Is it still active? What are your biggest projects? Talk about that for a second.
No, it's not active anymore, but it was so much fun, man. So it's actually a fun story, and I feel like it's something that only a city like New York could give me the opportunity to really find not only, again, the motivation, but also the people to launch, Wrong Way Pictures back then. I was still in college. I think it was sophomore year when, together with a group of friends, we were actually interning at a production company that was very much based on all things Italy when it comes to New York City. So, again, we had a passion for filmmaking. We had a passion for, just shooting content, and we said, why don't we actually launch something on our own? So we decided to launch Wrong Way Pictures, and it was fun. We lasted 3 years. We were really focusing on essentially shooting music videos, shooting short films, shooting also commercials of different kinds, and then essentially taking those I would say not much profits, but then reinvesting in short films that we were making of our own. And fun fact is, the guys that are still involved with the company, they ended up then shooting their own feature films. So it was pretty amazing to see the growth and everything. But at some point around, I would say, senior year, I was really, drawn to focus on much more tech-related things, and I took a different path.
So then fast forward a little bit, how did you start the agency, or can you tell us a little bit more about the agency?
Yeah, so Connected Stories. It's actually interesting, right? Because it took me a few years after Wrong Way Pictures to then launch Connected Stories, because as soon as I got done with Wrong Way Pictures, that was, again, senior year of college, I joined a venture capital firm for a little while. And then I joined a tech startup in FinTech, in finance technology, focused on borrowing and lending money between friends and family. That was the name of the company was Frank, which literally stood for Frank the Friend's Bank, right? So that's something that inspired me to really dive in more the tech business and essentially find something that was a little bit more scalable than production, right? Because, again, Wrong Way Pictures, it wasn't that much scalable as a business, unfortunately, right? Super interesting, super creative, but didn't give you the possibility that, for example, now Connected Stories has given me to actually scale the business and build an actual product, right? So that was the thing that really interested me at that point. And again, it's the people that work with me, with us, they know it. I launched Connected Stories with my father, right? So my father is a long-time entrepreneur in the tech field. And since I was a kid, I essentially was inspired by him of an idea of being, an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur, right? So at some point, right after, again, this experience with Frank, the tech startup, I found myself, again, sort of like partnering up with him and launching Connected Stories.
What made you feel confident that you were like able to start a company?
Nothing, actually. Nothing really, no. I would say just the vision, the passion, right? Like I don't think, at least not my experience, I wasn't necessarily confident that I would have been able to succeed, right? But I was confident that we had an idea, a vision towards sort of like building something, or in a certain way also fixing a problem, and that was the thing that led us to essentially say, okay, this is interesting. We think we have an opportunity here. The market is incredibly big, but at the same time, it hasn't innovated in the creative space, in the creative tech space, the one that essentially we play in, as much as we thought they could have, right? So we felt like we saw like an opportunity more so than again, sort of like knowing that we would have succeeded. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess my question would be like, what happens as you were growing the business that you just didn't expect, going in? And I know your dad had like a successful exit and he's been there and done it, but for you personally, like what ended up happening? Like, wow, I didn't think I'd have to focus that much on this or something like that.
So many things.
Yeah.
So many. I would say one in particular that I had sort of like found myself in previous experiences is probably managing people. I knew that it was difficult. I didn't know that it would have been sort of like this challenging, not that it's necessarily difficult, but inspiring people more so than guiding them towards a certain vision is what probably is the most difficult aspect of being an entrepreneur, although also the most fulfilling one, the most exciting ones. Because when you see people, coming together, creating something exciting, and really, making friends along the way and becoming, successful people together, that's what's most interesting thing to me.
Do you have any like nightmare stories with hires or anything?
No, don't get me started. Don't get me started. I think I'll be censored here. No, look, that plenty. Like, I think, only now we're getting good at the hiring process from, I should say, like a good filtering mechanism when it comes to, again, the application stage as well as the interview process. It wasn't structured when we started, so we made a lot of mistakes bringing people on that weren't necessarily suited for the job, or people that were suited for the job and not necessarily a good fit for the company. Although when you are an early stage company, it's tough for you to attract talent, right? So it's not that you sort of like take what's available, but at the same time, it's you're not Google, so the sort of like filtering process as well as the entire hiring process cannot be as selective. Now, as we are scaling up, we have more means. As we did a fundraising last summer that enabled us to essentially bring on more funds. We were able to be more selective. We were able to actually have a much more structured process. We have and also an HR department in place, and that really helps towards bringing the best and the brightest as much as possible. But at the same time, there's always going to be this sort of like degree of failure when it comes to bringing people on, for sure.
Yeah, no question. Who was your first hire? Like what position, at what point did the company get to where you're like, all right, we need to make another hire?
So I would say the tech department, right? So the tech department, our CTO, he had actually been working with my father in previous ventures before essentially starting Connected Stories. So the tech department essentially had always been sort of like the foundation of Connected Stories since day zero, basically. They are the ones who, with us, came up with the product, came up with the idea, and allowed us to essentially have something that we could bring to market. So that was the first piece that we sort of like made sure that we had. Although again, mistakes also along the way when it comes to the tech department. Although again, our CTO is still with us and thriving, so we're very excited about that, and very happy with him still being with us. But at the same time, the first hiring from a client-facing perspective, I would say the account management team. Those are the ones that essentially we brought on as the foundation for bringing the Connected Stories platform to market. And the customer success team in general has been a key success, a key part of our success, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, I guess I realize we got to take another step back because we didn't actually really like talk about the product yet, which we don't need to spend too much time, but I just want the listeners to know, what the heck we're talking about right now. So can you talk a little bit more about the product?
Totally. No, that's a good point. So we are a creative management platform with certain people not necessarily familiar with the advertising technology industry. We basically have a platform solution that allows to make video ads more interesting, right? And how do you do so is through personalization, interactivity, but at the same time, essentially solving for different challenges, right? From a platform perspective, which is how do you scale production through automating the workflow? How do you make sure that personalization is not only achievable, but also scalable through using different signals? And we use audience-based signals, we use contextual information, we use a lot of different signals that are informing creatives in real time. And then the last aspects of the platform is the actual measurement of creative success through user behavior. So we are essentially an end-to-end platform that caters specifically to the open internet, therefore all things programmatic, more so than again all things video in general. So the platform, we've been marketing it through creative agencies, media agencies, although the end client is obviously the brands. We are very much, I would say, vertical agnostic. We work with a lot of different industry verticals, auto, telco, CPG, pharma, because at the same time, all different industry verticals need to have content that is more interesting for their consumers, although at the same time differentiating themselves, while of course, automating the production, personalizing at scale, and measuring granularly the user behavioral aspects of the interactions.
And how did you guys get your first customer?
How did we get our first customer? It's interesting because when we actually launched Connected Stories, we didn't approach the market from the buy side, but from the sales side, right? So we started by essentially selling to publishers, right? Publishers had still do have like a big sales team, and they were going to market. They're still going to market for the majority of cases by selling their inventory and in some other instances also their data. So when it came to Connected Stories, we said, okay, why don't you also bring to market something that allows to have much more interesting and enhanced creatives, especially videos, right? So we started working with a few different publishers and video networks between Europe and the US, and they essentially paved the way for us to then be able to grow into the buy side more and more.
In that, so the next question I want to ask is, how did you get your second customer? Because I think, obviously the first customer is important, but the second kind of like starts that trend. Is what you just answered also how you get your second customer? Did you get your second customer another way?
So no, so let me take a step back. So the first customer, it's very much a leap of faith, right? You have no case studies. You have essentially, the product, but at the same time, it has never been actually tested, right? So the first customer is the one that takes the leap of faith, right? There's got to be the innovators. There got to be the ones that are essentially trusting you as their partners, right? The second customer, we got it through essentially creating an interesting case study around the first customer, showcasing that our platform was successful for, again, this first customer to achieve their objectives, creating ROI for their agencies and the brands they were working with, and that allowed us to essentially bring in more publishers. Then the first customer that we essentially brought on from a buy-side perspective, again, I think it was a media agency. That was another essentially like leap of faith from them, although we already had the sort of like case study that our enhanced creatives were effective from a sales side perspective. But now the pitch was, well, instead of just going and buy from the single publisher on the buy side through, again, programmatic buying, you can then scale these across any sort of inventory you guys want to buy, without necessarily being stuck with a specific publisher. So therefore, again, positioning ourselves as agnostic to media and empowering them to go to market and scale their buying, and therefore the use of connected stories and our creatives across any sort of inventory out there.
Got you. And a few questions I tend to ask at the end. If you had to teach something to other marketers, what would it be?
Wow, that's a pretty big question. I would say create a good customer success support, because your product it's always gonna be sort of like in the making, right? There's never gonna be. I mean, there are some late stage products that are, I wouldn't say perfect, but are already very successful and almost 100% optimized. When it comes to, again, an early stage company like we were, customer success makes all the difference. It's yes, there might be problems with the platform, there might be problems with campaigns, there might be problems with anything, but if you're able to deal with them fast, if you're able to deal with them promptly, and sort of like provide not only like convincing explanations, but also solutions to their problems, that's probably the key, in my opinion, what I've seen, the key to essentially like having like a business that is able to progress in the future.
Oh, I love that. What do you enjoy talking about the most that you normally don't get an opportunity to talk about?
It's interesting. Well, entrepreneurship. It's something that I talk about it among, my friends or the people that I know that are, again, themselves entrepreneurs. But oftentimes, I don't think I have a platform good enough to talk about it. So that's one thing. And then there are a few other things, mostly around specifically what we do in terms of like advertising technology, right? Because it's a little bit of a niche. There are different actors involved in, again, of course, the entire ecosystem of advertising technology. But oftentimes, I don't think we have, again, like a forum for us to talk about it all that much.
Sure. No, I generally agree. Are you guys looking to hire any positions right now?
We do. Yeah, plenty, actually. So that's good, I would say, given the fact that, again, we're growing. We operate across both the United States and Europe, mainly focusing ourselves around Rome, Milan, and New York, although we are people essentially all over the place. Everybody's working almost, I should say, hybridly across these three different locations. And we are always hiring, currently we're hiring as a product manager. We are at a certain level right now that unfortunately ourselves, meaning the founders more so than, again, the tech team, cannot manage the product anymore that well as we used to.
Good problems.
Come again?
Good problems.
Definitely. Those are good problems to have for sure. And another big position that we are hiring is essentially a business development lead for all things Europe.
Perfect. And last question, any books or podcasts or newsletter recommendations?
Well, books, plenty. I would say, one that I think it's a must read is Thinking Fast and Slow. I think that's not necessarily an entrepreneurial book specifically, but it's one that I think it's a must read. In terms of movies or TV shows, I've been watching and enjoying Succession a lot.
Love it.
Jude, it's amazing. I mean, that's not a sort of like scenario that I would want to replicate, despite the fact that I started this business with my father.
All right.
I'm not looking to, again, sort of like replicate those dynamics. Although, I mean, I can use a few tactics here and there. But that's definitely one that I would suggest. Yeah.
Should I ask what character you relate most to, or is that?
I don't know. It's they're not good. They're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Any of them is good. You know what I'm saying?
I was setting you up with that question. It's good. Probably good that you weren't.
I mean, I'm trying to be as most agnostic as possible from them.
That's right.
But no, they're all incredibly fascinating. I feel like a mix of them. I don't know how it's gonna end. Like, I'll tell you in a few episodes, and then I'll be able to provide you with a response.
It's been a great season. And as we come up to the end of the episode, I just want to give you an opportunity to mention how people can find you and anything else you'd like to end with.
I would say the easiest way for people to find me is on LinkedIn. Just, type my name, super responsive. I like to jump onto conversation with anyone about anything. As long as it's interesting, I'm down to talk. And yeah, I mean, another thing that I'd love to say is, we are in a very interesting times when it comes to advertising. Advertising, despite not being always framed as the sexiest thing in the world, is something that at the same time supports anything we do online. Most of us are not paying for whatever we do online, and advertising is essentially paying for it. So we gotta at some point probably respect a little bit more. But from an advertiser perspective, and again, someone who's in the business, our goal is to make it just more enjoyable for consumers, right? So I feel like we need to pursue that goal. And ourselves as Connected Stories, our objective is to make it interesting, to make it exciting, and not to have essentially bad ads anymore.
Love it. And Tommaso, thank you so much for coming on the show. And for those of you who learned something new from this episode, please consider giving us a like or a follow so we can continue getting the highest quality guests like Tommaso. And thank you, as always, for listening. Tommaso, love this time. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Josh. Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast. I hope you got a ton of value out of this episode. And before we go, I just want to thank our sponsors, DevNoodle. DevNoodle provides marketing agencies with the ability to offer their clients unlimited website design, build, and management services with fixed monthly plans. If website design, development, and maintenance is holding your agency back from growing, please reach out to us at devnoodle.com, where we make websites easy for you and easy for your clients. devnoodle.com.